The Road to Macstock with Mike Burke. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by MacVoices Live, our weekly live panel discussion of what is going on in the Apple space, as well as the larger tech world, and how it is impacting you. Join us live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, or whatever time that is wherever you are, at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and participate in the chat, or catch the edited and segmented versions of the show on the regular MacVoices channels and feeds. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're just a little bit farther down the road to Macstock. We are visiting with all the speakers and anyone else we can find in preparation for Macstock in July in Crystal Lake, Illinois. We hope you will be there. That's why we do the Road to Macstock, to let you meet the speakers, find out what they're going to be talking about, and what you can expect to learn. Today, we have a first-time speaker, Mike Burke, who will be presenting at Macstock. Mike, welcome. It's great to meet you and great to have you.
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. I didn't realize when I signed up for Macstock that I'd also get to be here on MacVoices, so that's an awesome double win.
Well, I hope it's a double win. I hope one doesn't detract from the other. So we'll just leave it at that. So as I said pre-show, and I probably should mention this to the audience too, I never know. I really, honestly, I do not look and see what the topics are, even though they're posted on the website and sometimes Mike will send them to me. I'd rather have the conversation just cold. So what are you going to be presenting at Macstock?
So the title maybe is a little bit pretentious, but I'm presenting on digital mise en place. I'm not sure if you ever heard that term before, but my mom was a cook, and she taught me when you're in the kitchen, right before you turn anything on, you got to cut all your onions and do all that stuff. Like you got to get the preparation first. And so I recently made that connection with learning that at a young age and how I address a lot of my digital content creation that I do for work or for myself. And what I'm going to try to teach everybody is how you can think kind of like a chef does, how you can think about your content creation, your work process, with that same mentality of getting all of your files set up, having a nice, healthy folder structure and creating all the digital infrastructure that you need in order to allow you and your creative brain to focus on the work instead of the work about the work, and doing that with a lot of cool automations and thoughtfulness.
That's really intriguing to me. We have had a number of folks in the past who have talked about various productivity methodologies, but I don't recall anyone talking about focusing on the setup ahead of time. And I'm first of all, I love the idea. I'm not sure I always accomplish it, but so maybe I can learn from it.
Sure.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Do you find that do you intend to apply this to GTD or any other particular methodologies, or is this all sort of standalone preparation? And I'm borrowing from your metaphor with the cooking before you even start the cooking process.
Yeah, so this is really the thought process I have behind it is really inspired probably more by the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. Came out 2010, 2012 or so. And that book really meant a lot to me. It just came at the right time. But I was a teacher, a classroom teacher, and I was just kind of struggling a little bit with taking care of all of the responsibilities that teachers have. And this book really helped me start thinking about creating systems. And that's what I'm really talking about here. As much as it might fit into a productivity system, when I get assigned a task at work, I'm a technical trainer by day. So when I get assigned a training program or a video I need to create at work, that goes into my GTD system. But part of that process is to click a button to kick off a Keyboard Maestro macro that makes all the folders that I need to make and makes all the markdown documents, all my planning documents, and kind of sets all that stuff up so that I don't forget about any of it. And that's the big thing I learned from the Checklist Manifesto was no matter how capable and smart you are, no matter how many times you've done something, even the best surgeons in the world, the world's top performers, they're going to forget something one day. And that thing that they're going to forget is going to cause a problem. But if they have a system that does that ahead of time, then you don't get out of the flow. You don't break your thought process and you don't struggle and have to restart your work. But if you set up all your folders and set up all your files and get everything all squared away at the beginning, I find it really helpful that when it does come up in my GTD system, everything is ready and I can just get started working instead of starting to work on the work, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I know I'm guilty of it, and I bet you 99% of the audience is guilty of being handed a project, and we just dive right in. And from the way you just described it, it's like, yeah, it's probably a really good thing to do, to organize everything before you do the work. But I imagine it takes a fair amount of discipline to practice what you're preaching.
It certainly is a learning curve, right? And you have to take some time to do it. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping to be able to present is I'm hoping to save everybody the time and effort it took for me to start thinking this way and maybe give people a shortcut. But the idea is, for me, was that also because of the nature of the work that I do during the day, I would inherit a lot of projects from somebody who long ago stopped working there, and it's now time to update something that somebody I've never even met created. And I'm digging through the folders that they have, and I feel like some kind of digital archaeologist trying to piece together and understand the brain that created all this stuff, and it's just really tough. And so I started thinking from that perspective as well of saying, well, if somebody else is going to inherit my project, it's not just me who's going to benefit from this. If I have like this consistent way of doing things, then I'm making it easier on some other poor soul in the future who gets my work and has to pick it up and keep going. And it's an iterative process. It's something, the last thing on my project checklist is always update my project checklist for next time, update my automations to make sure that they're working, with and enhance with anything else that I've learned. So it doesn't have to be, and it wasn't right the first time I did it. It's something that just is a habit that I do at the end of every project, is update everything so that next time it's a little bit better.
So I have the impression from the way you're talking that we're talking principally about computer files on your Mac or
I'm sorry,
or
yes.
iPad or what. Well, no, but does the same kind of thinking apply to the physical world at all?
Certainly could be. That's not the nature of my work or what I do. Everything I do is, I'm a remote worker, and everything I create is zeros and ones. So all of that stuff is that I'm going to be talking about at the session is from a digital perspective, but it certainly couldn't get more physical than carrots and onions on a cutting board. The thought process, at least my inspiration for the process, came from the physical world. So I guess as a classroom teacher, I would do this type of stuff too, with my filing cabinet and making sure I had like answer keys and stuff like that all filed away for next time, because I find a lot of my work is cyclical. I'll have to do a very similar project next month or next quarter or something like that. So both physical and digital, I feel anybody who has, I don't want to say repetitive work, but has work that rhymes over time, I think would benefit from at least the process of planning, right? Was it Eisenhower said, plans mean nothing, but planning means everything. Something along those lines. I think just the process of thinking about your work and how you do it and being intentional about it is helpful, even if people leave my session and never touch Keyboard Maestro. Perhaps they've thought more intentionally about how they set up their work.
you offered it exactly for the exact reason I asked it, that when you said you were a classroom teacher, obviously classroom teachers deal with more physical aspects of things than just ones and zeros. So that's where I was going with that. Is this something that you strictly have developed because you do ones and zeros, or was this part of your past lives?
I guess this exact form and what I'd be presenting at my session is my most recent iteration of it, I guess. As I said before, I'm a very iterative person. I'm always trying to tweak and improve every time I do anything, any project, so I'm better next time. So with that, I guess we could trace back over all those iterations. And I certainly, as a classroom teacher, had a huge set of digital files that I used to help run my classroom. But, there's lots of getting things in place because I was a science teacher. You'd have to have lab supplies. You have to order them a couple weeks ahead of time. All that stuff is about thinking ahead and having things in order, or having your digital mise en place or your physical mise en place lined up. I guess I saw the benefits of that in the classroom a decade ago, and I see the benefits of that on a desktop today.
It's probably even a little bit easier in the digital world because of tools like Keyboard Maestro, so that you don't have to go through and create those. I'm making this up as I go, but there's 10 project folders that are part of every project you do, or at least part of the way you approach projects. So I like this idea a lot. I feel like I will definitely be taking a lot of notes at your session.
I appreciate that, and it also makes things easy for taking things further as well. I found it interesting to, if all my files, all my projects for, let's say, all my blog posts on my website, I have all 130, 140 of those folders all set up. Now, because my written content is all in the same spot in each folder, I can run a shell script to combine all of those PDFs for me, or all those documents together for me into one big document. And then I can throw that into an AI tool and ask it, hey, what are my flaws as a writer? Like, what are my mistakes? Like, what can I do better? Like, I can get coaching, but it can enhance things like that, because it just makes the automations easier if all of my folders are in the right spots, or are in a consistent format, that I can do interesting things with them. And I found that helpful at work too, to be able to take all the documentation from a project and drop it into Claude or something like that and say, here's like, what are we missing? Or give me a frequently asked questions document based off of this or something. It's just an interesting way that by setting yourself up with these very basic things like folders and files, you can not only have good habits like that, but it can also make it interesting to apply your old work into new circumstances because of your consistency.
So I don't want to take us too far off track here, but I have to ask.
Oh, sorry.
Because no, because I'm curious more than anything. You referenced Claude, you referenced your GTD system. So how have you been able to integrate? And again, please don't give the presentation here, but how have you been able to integrate some of those external tools in with this internal little system you've created?
Sure. So a couple things this system is possible because being able to run something through an AI tool, I like Claude. I'm not great at shell scripts. I've always known about them. I've always known they were powerful, and I've always wanted to be able to do them. And it's always been on my to-do list, one of those someday maybe lists of saying, I need to learn AppleScript or shell scripts. I need to figure out those cool tools that I find online and of somebody else's and apply. Like, I want to make some of those myself. So that's actually something that I got. I was able to clearly lay out, like, here's what I want. Here's my folders. Here's how I do all this. And then get a shell script from Claude that does the thing that I want. That's actually been the thing that I've loved the most about AI. Again, not trying to get too far off topic, but being able to fill in those little gaps of things that I've always wanted to do with my computer that use some of the oldest, like most fundamental pieces of the operating system that I've never had access to before. Being able to run a shell script that sets up a bunch of different files and folders that are perfectly attuned for what I want them to be has really unlocked a lot of really cool possibilities for me. And I found that to be, again, like I said, my number one use of AI is help me figure out an Apple script to change this in things or something like that. Little edge cases or little paper cuts that AI helps solve for me. That's my favorite part.
Okay. I'm intrigued as to not only how this developed, but also how you're using it along with all the other tools that any of us might also use. What made you decide to apply to be a Macstock speaker, especially with this in mind?
So actually, the inspiration for this came from scrolling through Mastodon. I follow Brett Terpstra on Mastodon, and I saw him say something about this conference, and it's been on my list for a while. I haven't done an in-person conference in a while. As a teacher, I did a bunch, and I really enjoyed it, but my current work doesn't really have a lot of in-person conference opportunities available. So I saw it, and I said, that's interesting. I've heard of Macstock before, and I clicked on it, and I looked around a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this sounds, I think maybe I heard on Mac Power Users or something like that in the past. I was like, oh yeah. And then I saw the session was about share. I thought that was the theme of the conference. And I was like, share is kind of, that's what I do at work. That's what I do at home. Like I'm creating educational content for people. I probably have something to say about sharing and how my Mac helps me do that. And then I came up with this topic idea based on a couple of recent blog posts that I put together. And I figured, well, let me just put a workshop let me tie these 2 YouTube videos and 2 blog posts together and say, I can make that into an in-person experience. It'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be pretty valuable for people. Now we're here.
That's great. So you're a first-time attendee as well as a first-time speaker.
I am.
That's great. Well, I at this point in the interview, I usually wax enthusiastic about Macstock, and the speaker agrees with me. You don't have that experience, so you're going to be getting it all for the first time, and I promise you that you're going to have a good time. I can't imagine how anybody comes to Macstock and doesn't have a good time because you're among your people.
Glad to hear it. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So Mike Potter has been kind enough to give all the speakers and me as well a coupon code to save $50 off attending Macstock. And I want to make sure we let the folks know what your code is so they can use it and hopefully come and see you present what we've been talking about. Your speaker code is?
Yeah, it's Mike Burke 50. So that's Mike, M-I-K-E, Burke, B-U-R-K-E, 50. So I hope to see everybody there. It'd be really exciting. Like I said, I'm a classroom teacher. I love the idea of getting in front of people and telling them about something I'm passionate about. And I haven't had an opportunity to do that in person in quite some time, so I'm excited to be there.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the presentation. I love the things that people come up with, and I usually spend a lot of the weekend taking notes because there's just so much to learn. And I think you're going to be one of those that fills up a few pages or a few screens, depending on how I decide to do it. Before I let you go, Mike, I also want to find out if you have any social media presences, or I think you mentioned a blog, anything you'd like to promote, or that ways people can connect with you even before Macstock.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website's probably the easiest way and best way to do that. That's themikeburke.com. I have a YouTube channel as well, which is Mike Burke Tech. Those are the 2 places that I'm spend the most time and effort on. I am on Mastodon, but mostly as a reader. Every once in a while, I get an inspiration to share something. But if you go to the website, you'll find the best way to find me and find all the stuff that I'm doing.
Perfect. I look forward to meeting you for the first time at Macstock. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you at the conference as well.
Folks, we're looking forward to seeing you in Crystal Lake, Illinois in July for Macstock. We're going to have a ball. We really want you there. So Mike's code is Mike Burke 50. Mine is MacVoices 50. I don't care whose you use ours, use any of the other speakers we've talked to, but just get to Macstock. It's going to be a blast. So once again, Macstock Conference and Expo is where you go to register, to find out about the hotel information, to get the schedule, everything. I'm Chuck Joyner, and this is MacVoices. We'll have more on the road to Macstock coming up soon. Until then, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.